Good afternoon. Not yet. It says not. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to our January 11th meeting of the Housing Opportunities Commission, and welcome those who are on YouTube virtual, and also welcome our staff who are present in person, and also to welcome back home the HOC family in this room and also in the agency. So we acknowledge that. Let me introduce the members of the commission who are here. My immediate left is Fran Kelleher, who is our vice chair. Next to her is Linda Kroon, commissioner. To my right is Jeffrey Simon, former chair of the HOC. And next to her is Jeffrey Meckerwood, commissioner. Also joining us virtually are Rick Nelson, chair pro tem, and also Pamela Bird. Welcome. Good to see all of you all. So we will get started with our agenda. The first item of the agenda is the community forum. No one requested to speak before the commission today. And so we will move on to the next order of business, which is a report of the executive director. I would note that we'll welcome Kaylene Brown, who is our deputy director. She's going to be sitting in today for Trustee Andrews, who is on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. Also, just for a personal note, to note that I found out recently that today is also Chelsea's birthday. And so I want to acknowledge today is her birthday, and all happens coincidentally, it's also my wife's birthday.
Wow.
And so that caused me to have to buy a bigger present because I'm sitting here. So I will welcome all of you all and turn to Kaylene for a report from our Deputy Executive Director.
Hey, good afternoon, commissioners, HOC staff, and the general public. For the record, my name is Kaylene Brown, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director for HOC. And on behalf of the Executive Director, Chelsea Andrews, I'm pleased to deliver today's Executive Director report for the activities covering December 2022. Please go to slide 2. The report for December highlights broadband initiative for our residents, an FY22 Family Self-Sufficiency Grant Award, brief legislative update, highlights from our Resident Services Division, updates from our Housing Resources Division, a brief Information Technology Division update, and a brief Real Estate Development Activities update. Slide 3, please. In our ongoing efforts to bridge the digital divide for our customers, HOC partnered with Montgomery County to enroll qualified residents in the Affordable Connectivity Program, also referred to as ACP, to enroll them for a $45 credit toward internet services. This was the first of 2 events that was held on December 3rd at the Gaithersburg Library. The second event was held on December 10th at the Lake Forest Mall, where laptop computers were distributed. Slide 4. During the first event, an estimated 153 households applied for the ACP credits, which an estimated 114 or 75% were HOC customers. During the second event at the Lake Forest Mall, 287 computers were distributed, of which 186 were to HOC customers, and of those of the HOC customers, 93% reportedly did not previously have a computer and were using smartphones to access the internet. This is a first small step in bridging the vast digital divide, but an important initiative for HOC and the county. Please go to slide 5. Turning now to the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, HOC received a 1-year renewal grant from HUD for the FSS program. This is an initiative designed to assist Housing Choice Voucher participants to increase their earnings and improve their overall financial health. The total award was $547,000, and it covers the period of January through December of 2023. HOC's customers enrolled in FSS at the time totaled 353, and the grant fully funds 5 full-time employees. And you will note here that this is the first time in 15 years that HOC does not need to supplement the positions with funding from other sources, which is quite important for us, as our resources can then be redirected elsewhere. Please go to slide 6. And for our legislative update, many of you know that the Maryland General Assembly convenes with the swearing in of its members today. And this begins the 90-day session, which ends in April 10th. Our Director of Governmental and Legislative Affairs is currently preparing a list of bills that will be considered or proposed in this session that will impact HOC as well as the county, and we'll be preparing and submitting to you in the near future, hopefully by next week. The inauguration of the new governor will be held a week from today, next Wednesday, and the County Council returns from its winter recess and will resume its weekly meetings. On slide 7, Bill 33-22, which was introduced by Councilmember Friedson, there will be a public hearing scheduled for January 17th. This bill concerns capital improvement program and affordable housing feasibility study that's required. Under the current law, the county executive is required to complete an affordable housing assessment for each applicable capital project as part of facility planning. And the bill would require the county executive to submit to the council an affordable housing feasibility study prior to facility planning and development of the program of requirements, site selection, or land acquisition of any eligible capital projects. The county would have 30 days to approve or disapprove of the county executive's analysis and conclusions. And as I said, this bill is scheduled for a public hearing on January 17th. It was introduced in November of last year. Slide 8, please. Turning now to our resident services activities, and as you would expect, December was a pretty busy month for our resident services division, given that it was the holiday season and the resident services staff worked tirelessly to bring holiday cheer to our residents while it continued its normal activities. On slide 8, please. So the Service Coordination Unit spotlights Cytomel as it has been for the last several months. It is HOC's largest asset with tremendous needs. Our efforts in December continues to facilitate the Street Outreach Network program, provide holiday assistance to customers, and assist with rent, delinquencies, and participate in a collaboration meeting at the Watkins Mills School cluster to determine how best to assist students at Cytomel in nearby communities. Attention also turned to Seneca Ridge with a kickoff of the Street Outreach Network Safe Zones program, which, as I said, was successful at Cytomel, and also to participate in their holiday party. Slide 10, please. At HOC, a significant holiday event was hosted in the gym for youth from the Brutus Discovery in Seneca Ridge. They were provided with holiday money, which they used to purchase donated gifts for their parents. The gifts were wrapped by Santa's elves, including our own Commissioner Simon. And of course, there were lots of fun, food, and games for everyone. On slide 11, in partnership with Only Moms, Town Center Place also distributed gifts to families from Town Center Place apartments, shown in this picture here on your screen. On slide 12, starting on slide 12, not to be outdone, the seniors at Bauer Park had their own holiday luncheon in their newly renovated space. It's hard to see, but it's beautiful. On site 13, the seniors at Residences on the Lane also celebrated with their own holiday party in the new building, quite a shift from 90 Monroe, their old building at Town Center in Rockville. On site 14 at Arcola Towers, in partnership with Arts for the Aging, they too celebrated the season. On site 15, our seniors at Forest Oaks joined in festivities with their own holiday dinner party. On site 16, families were referred from various properties to receive bicycles through Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church distribution drive, and quite a treat for kids getting new bikes for the holidays. The family sites joined in the holiday fun as well, where on site 17, a party was held at Tanglewood Apartments, and a photo booth was also a part of the fun there. On site 18, a holiday decorating contest highlights Washington Square from among a number of creative entrants. Turning now to site 19, and switching to more of the typical activities, service coordination unit of the Resident Services Division continued with providing its usual assistance with recertification and rental assistance to customers at a number of our properties. On slide 20, while it was great to celebrate the season, we cannot ease up on our efforts. And so programming to provide meals, educational, recreational, and enrichment opportunities continue. Through our reliable partners, Man of Food Center, Emmanuel Brinklow Seventh-day Adventist Church, Montgomery County Senior Nutrition Lunch Program, Capital Area Food Bank Senior Brown Bag, and My Groceries to Go programs, we served 375 with food and continue to facilitate senior nutrition program and socialization opportunities for our seniors. On slide 21, switching now to activities for HOC Academy, youth enrichment activities continued in December with night for youth and their family, including indoor skydiving, dinner, and STEM-themed gear. First Generation College Bound program continued to work with their coach, and Sensational Lab program focused on activities and challenges and the Gingerbread House STEAM project. Not to be outdone, the adult education program of HOC Academy, Adult Education and Workforce Development, Small Business Strategy course, alumni continue to report progress as well as new business ventures. 1 reported new employment, and 23 who received tuition assistance completed the fall 2022 academic semester at Montgomery College and other training institutions. Our financial literacy program continued on slide 23, where in December, a financial literacy coach continued its efforts to provide one-on-one coaching to 17 HOC customers and 8 individuals on the wait list. Topics covered a variety of relevant items, including budget creation, reading one's credit report, and creating monthly financial goals. On slide 24, our supportive service program, which serves about 230 participants, continued to conduct home visits with program participants providing case management services and paying rent and utilities. The program continued to help emergency voucher recipients secure housing by providing location services as well as financial assistance for application fees, security deposits, moving expenses, and household items. The rent supplement program, which provides shallow rental subsidy of up to $600 per month to county residents, also showed increased activity. The commission has always been concerned that we're not hitting our targets, but I'm pleased to report that in the month of December, we actually exceeded our budgeted number of 275 by serving 278 families. So this is an improvement and a shift in the right direction. On slide 25, the Fatherhood Initiative program graduated 13 fathers and enrolled 35 for the January cohort. The monthly goal for this program is approximately 40 to 45 fathers, and the annual goal for the program is 356. On slide 26 to 30, beginning on slide 26, we begin to report on the Housing Choice Voucher Program. The utilization rate has increased, as we've reported before, but it remains steady at 96%. 196 families with issued vouchers are searching for suitable units to rent. 103 units are pending execution, and 210 families were selected from the waitlist last month. 8 requests for extension beyond the 90 days were received, and these requests included with their ask certain records reflecting efforts made to secure housing during the voucher term and the landlords who were contacted. The extension request did not warrant any referral to the Human Rights Commission for Discrimination, we're pleased to report. On slide 27, we're providing information regarding the use of Rent Cafe for online certification. As we reported to you before, HOC introduced the use of online certification through Rent Cafe to help with the help of the IT division. Those with, excuse me, those with December 2022 certifications are required to submit recertifications electronically. 476 of 728 submitted, and that represents about 65%. On slide 28, we report on terminations, and there were 94 terminations that were recommended in December. The staff of the Housing Resources Division and Resident Services Division worked together to minimize the number of terminations. And as a result of their efforts, only 9 customers were actually terminated for the reasons we show there: 2 due to death, 2 for skips or voluntary exit of the program, 1 was evicted, and 4 failures to respond to outreach. And we continue to, to work with those so that if there's any response, we can help them figure out how to remain housed. On slide 29, the emergency voucher program continues to be a success. There are currently 78% or 92 of the 118 that are currently successfully leased. 15 have been issued vouchers and continue to search for appropriate housing. 2 are being processed to determine program eligibility, and 9 referrals have been requested from Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services. On slide 30, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, as you are aware, HUD has approved the changes that we have proposed to the Commission and were approved in November by HUD. So since then, 4 new applicants have been added, and we're now up to 362 enrolled. And under the changes that have been approved by HUD, there are now 40 existing participants who have expressed interest in switching to the new contract under the approved rules. Switching to slide 31, a brief update on information technology. Rent Cafe continues to be an effective tool that was rolled out by the IT division that has enhanced our customers' experience in getting certified and more efficiently, so that it limits or reduces the amount of paperwork and makes the process a little bit more efficient for customers as well as for agency staff. And so here we provide some statistics for you on enrollment since between November 29th, 2022 and January 5th, 2023. You've seen a 14% increase in enrollment. There's been a reduction in the number customers who contacted us for enrollment, and there's been a slight reduction in the number that have completed certification online. I will point out here that we continue to evaluate the statistics that are reported here, and it is our goal to work to ensure that we're providing the right information based on this tool that we're using, as it is moving target, because customers are invited or requested to enroll within a certain window within which their certifications are due. So it's a constantly moving moving statistics, and so we're going to be massaging and ensuring that we're providing the best set of data that gives you the information that tells you how our customers are responding and using the tool to improve their experience in certifying, or not certifying, but recertifying their incomes. And on slide 34, which is starts the real estate update, just a brief update on the Metropolitan. We've talked enough about the Metropolitan Green Roof, but work continues and will be ongoing for quite some time. I believe the estimated completion date is later this year, but here you can see some photographs on slide 34, or actually slide 33, I'm sorry, on the Metropolitan Green Roof. It's quite an elaborate replacement to correct the water infiltration there. And we wanted to ensure or to communicate to you that that work continues. It'll be several months before it is complete. And I think the projection now is for it to be completed later in September or October of this year. In the meantime, we have put out an RFP for a general contractor for the renovation of the Metropolitan property itself. Staff has been working for quite some time in preparation for that to occur, and the planned renovation of the entire 308 development will occur thereafter. And on slide 34, on December 19th, the executive director and staff met with representatives of the Heritage Emery Grove United Methodist Church Development Committee, the Main Street Inclusive Apartments, and that development is located right next to 91 Row. And the meeting was really held to discuss the development plans, just to reintroduce or introduce some to HOC's background, HOC's role, and the community's role in advancing the redevelopment of Heritage Emery Grove. And it was a very well attended meeting, and I think very productive. So it really is sort of a kickoff of the development of the church's site, and discussions around advancing the development of the other parcels of Heritage Emery Grove. So once again, another busy month for HOC, HOC's commission, HOC's staff, and our partners. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Any questions from commissioners?
I just have a comment, and that is, I am in awe of the partners that we work with and the contributions they make to the quality of life of our residents. I think it's remarkable that they are so faithful in their efforts, and I think we're very lucky to have them.
I agree.
Okay.
I would like to compliment the staff on working on the broadband initiative. I think in terms of, kids doing remote school and parents looking for jobs and all kinds of aspects of life, that is just a hugely helpful initiative and opportunity for folks. So great work on that. I also have a question about the Metropolitan. At one point, I know there was an issue with an elevator that wasn't working because of the leaks. Do we know if that has been fixed, or will that be part of what is completed in the September-October timeframe?
So yes, I believe the elevator has been repaired, but it's not open for use yet because the work around the green roof replacement will ensure that the water infiltration will be corrected. And once that's done, the elevator will reopen. Zach and Marcos, please confirm or correct my statement.
Yes, the elevator will be go back to the slide years ago.
So sometime this summer? Okay, great. Yeah, I can imagine it's stuck in the middle of a construction. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
But that elevator is in the public parking garage, is it not? It's not in our building.
Correct.
Thank you.
Just quickly mentioned this before, but I again want to applaud the work of the staff on the housing choice vouchers and getting the rate above 95%, keeping it up there, and especially the work of the resident services counselors in following up with the tenants who have been recommended for termination. I was really impressed to see, of 95, was it, or 94 that were recommended for termination. We were able to make sure that 84 of those were not actually terminated. And I'm just imagining, what sort of the avoidance of instability in those tenants' lives if they, were actually terminated. And so, the work, it has real human impact. It also, I'm sure, contributes to keeping our rate above 95%. And so really want to applaud that.
Are any questions from either commissioners online? Okay, just one observation. It's interesting that the General Assembly went back into session before the governor was sworn in. And that's the kind of an interesting sequence of things that could happen. But hey, that's the state, I guess. The other thing I wanted to ask about on the FSS program, the contract of participation. Can you explain a little bit what about that is different than what they currently operate with?
Sure. The head of household has changed, so the family can elect a different head of household other than the current contractor head of household. The date of expiration has been extended under the new contract. The escrow savings have changed where families now earn between 50 and 80% of AMI. They could continue to approve escrow, so it's a lot of new benefits under the new contract.
Yeah, very good. It's improving the program.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Okay. With no other questions, thank you very much for the report. And we will move to Commissioner Exchange. Anything for Commissioner Exchange? And one thing I want to start off with is just acknowledging and thanking Commissioner Simon for her participation in so many of the HOC events. From month to month, you hear she's either at an event on one of our properties or doing something else, and she's playing Santa's elf and wrapping presents. So I just want to acknowledge and thank you, Jackie, for your. It makes the rest of us look good. So I want to thank you. Any other comments? Yeah.
Well, I must tell you, the night of wrapping gifts, the cacophony in that room was unbelievable. And when I got home, my head was spinning. But everyone had a wonderful time and it was great. I do have one comment under the exchange.
Okay.
Wells Fargo has put together a $20 million grant to boost housing affordability. And they will be accepting applications. And my hope is that we will be submitting an application because I'm confident it's to consider native, rural, suburban, tribal, and urban solutions to transforming affordability. And I think maybe this would be an opportunity for us to pick a small project or some some effort that we might not have been able to do otherwise, that it would be ideal to submit. So I hope we'll pursue that.
I will give everyone a heads up for your calendars. This afternoon, I received notice that the Affordable Housing Conference of Montgomery County for this year will be Friday, May 5th. So folks who are interested in attending that, which I know we always have a good turnout and we're one of the sponsors last year. Friday, May 5th is a date you'll want to pencil in your calendar for that.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no other comments from commissioners, I'd like to move on to the approval of minutes. We have the minutes of December the 7th, 2022, and also approval of the minutes for a special session on that same day, on December 20th, I'm sorry. So it's December 7th minutes and also December 20th. Can I get a motion to approve?
Move approval.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second to approve those specific minutes. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. There's no consent items before us today, so we'll go on to committee reports and recommendations for action. Our first committee report will come from Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Nelson, who is remote. Commissioner Nelson?
The first report is the fiscal year 2023 first quarter budget to actual statements. And I believe to introduce, did you have a question, Commissioner Byrd? No. To introduce this subject, I will turn the mic over to our Deputy Executive Director, Kaylene Brown.
For the record again, I'm Kaylene Brown, and this item will be discussed by Timothy Getzinger, our Chief Development Funds Officer and Acting Chief Financial Officer, along with Terry Fowler, our Budget Officer. And with that, please take it away, Tim and Terry.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Brown. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Again, for the record, my name is Tim Getzinger. I am the acting CFO as well as the Chief Development Funds Officer. And this first item will be presented by Terry Fowler, our Budget Officer.
Thank you, Kaylene and Tim. For the record, my name is Terry Fowler and I'm the Budget Officer at HOC. For the first quarter FY23 budget to actual statements, the agency ended the quarter with a net cash flow deficit of approximately $1.8 million. This deficit resulted in a first quarter budget to actual negative variance of approximately $243,000 when compared to the anticipated first quarter net cash flow deficit. The primary causes were lower unrestricted cash flow in some of our unrestricted opportunity housing properties as a result of property performance, coupled with lower income in the general fund that was partially offset by savings and various expense categories in that fund. The lower income in the general fund is primarily the result of a delay in fees received for development that are anticipated later in the fiscal year. For the properties, some of the variances were related to increased maintenance due to deferred maintenance and inflation in the cost that we've also seen in the cost of our materials for development budgets. In the general fund, a portion of the savings is related to salary lapse and timing of billing for our contracts and software. And I'd be happy to address any questions you may have related to the report.
Go ahead.
Are there any questions?
Just one question. Related to materials.
Yes.
Do we have most of our materials pre-ordered and warehoused, or do we do a corporate counter purchases on materials?
There's someone coming in that can address that.
So this is Kaylene again for the record. With regard to our properties are managed by third parties first, And many of our third-party management companies do not store inventory. For some items they do, and for some they don't. So they're subject to what's happening in the open market. And even if they did store inventory, it's really not for all things. And so again, subject to what's happening in the open market. There isn't the ability to store all of their needs, and so they really are at the whim of the market. So.
And I do believe also for the internally managed, we are not storing
Right.
significant levels of inventory at our East Deer Park office. That has been minimized significantly, going to a more as needed basis.
Yeah, more of a just-in-time approach to providing materials.
And I do believe that I was having a conversation with Matt Hussman, who is our facilities oversight. And for the inventory that we do have, I believe it's average costing when they take it from the inventory that they use. However, again, we are not keeping significant levels of inventory for our units.
Yeah. Are there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, then I would move resolution 23-01, the acceptance of the first quarter FY23 budget to actual statements.
I second.
It's been probably moved and second to approve resolution 23-01. Are there any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. So ordered.
Thank you.
The next item is the uncollectible tenant accounts receivable. And I will go to our Deputy Executive Director to begin this presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Again, for the record, I'm Kareen Brown, and for this item, Timothy Getzinger and this time Nilu Riziki will discuss this item for you, Tim and Nilu.
Thank you again. For the record, Tim Getzinger, acting CFO as well as Chief Development Funds Officer. And again, presenting this item will be Nilu Riziki, our.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Nilu Rizegi. I am the accounting manager. The agency's current policy is to provide for an allowance for any tenant's accounts receivable balance which are older than 90 days. On a quarterly basis, the staff also recommend to the commission the write-off uncollectible receivables from past tenants. The proposed write-off for the first quarter of fiscal year 2023 amounted to $12,654, a decrease of $4,022 compared to the same time the previous year. The primary reason for the write-off include tenants who failed to complete their annual recertification, had a job transfer, no longer qualify for their respective housing program, purchase a home, or transfer to a different program. The Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee reviewed this request at its meeting on December 21st, 2022, and joins staff in its recommendation to approve the proposed write-off of uncollectible former residence balances for the first quarter of fiscal year 23, which totaled $12,654. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments related to the uncollectible tenant accounts receivable?
Just a quick question. It brought up the work before to ensure that tenants who had been recommended for termination were, worked with to see if they could stay in. Does that have any impact on, are these rents, like we're making sure tenants are not terminated? Is there some impact? I would assume that some of those tenants might have ended up not making payments if they had been terminated.
So in the ED report, are you referring to the termination in the ED report?
Yeah.
Those were reported for the voucher program.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure if there was any portion of that. I know the voucher covers.
No.
No. Okay.
No,
It was just a
not
curiosity
related.
question. Right. Okay. No other questions.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, then I will move approval of resolution 23-02, authorization to write off uncollectible tenant accounts receivable.
So moved.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 23-02. Are there any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Thank you.
The next item is the procurement of property management services for Elizabeth House, and I will again refer the item to Deputy Executive Director Kaylene Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. For the record, Kaylene Brown, and for this item, Ellen Goff, our Acting Director of Property Management, and Alex Torton, Asset Manager in the Property Management Division, will discuss this item with you. Ellen and Alex, please go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Brown. For the record, my name is Ellen Goff. I'm the Acting Director of Property Management, and with me today is Alex Torton, the Asset Manager for the Elizabeth House property, who will present.
Thank you, Ellen. Good evening. For the record, my name is Alex Torton. I'm the Asset Manager for HOC. We are recommending an extension of the property management contract at Elizabeth House with Edgewood Management through June 30th of 2023. The current contract is expiring on January 31st, 2023. The current Elizabeth House residents are awaiting the opening of the newly constructed Elizabeth House 3, now branded the Leggett. We expect to need Edgewood Management in place until the proposed expiration date to assist the transition and perform closeout duties until the building is vacant. The contract cost is based on occupied units, thus the financial impact will continuously decrease as the building vacates. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
One question is, how confident are we that we're going to be able to meet that June 23rd deadline in terms of the removal of all of the current residents of Elizabeth House to the new Leggett?
I would say we're confident in that date, and that's what led us to select it. We plan to start the moving process sometime in February.
There's currently only 52 residents, so they will lease up and they're already starting to be prepared. They're all ready and anxious. So it will be, if there's any need to extend beyond June, we are requesting sort of a month to month, but that would only be sort of for those closeout activities, closing out the.
Okay.
So Kaylene Brown, for the record, I can speak to efforts that are ongoing currently to strongly urge the general contractor to deliver the building by January 31st to enable us to begin moving the residents in by February 1st. He has committed to deliver the building by that date and is pushing hard on his subcontractors to meet that commitment. And so we are expecting that to happen. If there's a small delay, it won't push us beyond June in terms of moving the residents in. But we're hoping that we'll have a building by the end of January or February, starting to move our residents in by February. But certainly it will not be June before the residents are in. With regard to closing out, we're honestly expecting that will occur before the end of June. As Ellen said, it's really, we hope not to have to do a month to month for closing out, but we have built that into the current approval that we're asking of you.
What's the level of service that we provide to the residents as part of their move?
Ellen?
Sure. So we have a relocation coordinator on staff who's been working with them. The new management company, Habitat, has been on site. They have an office actually at the current Elizabeth House, and they're meeting with the residents. We provide boxes and packing supplies. We pack their homes. We move them. We provide all the services at no cost, assistance with relocating their utilities. So there's no impact. We've been doing this a long time for renovations and at other properties, so we're well skilled and will assist in any way.
Good.
And are all the 50-some residents all going to the Leggett?
Yes. Yes,
So all of the others have been relocated.
correct.
So that certainly should bode well for this
Yes.
happening quickly. I'm sure they're very anxious to move and excited and
Yes.
want to get it done quick.
And we met with them in December, and just to give them an update, so the executive director and staff met with them and provide them with briefings and what to expect and things like that. And we are also planning to commit you a tour of the building before long. So we're watching closely and planning for the appropriate time to give you a tour of the building before the residents move in. But if it has to be during the month of February, we'll do that. But the hope is to get that done during the last week of January. So please stay tuned.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I would say that I look forward to hearing at the February commission meeting that the move-in has begun. I also look forward to the ribbon cutting for the Leggett, and I don't know where the plans are for that. And now that you announced the tour, I look forward to that also. So we got a lot to look forward to between now and the beginning of February.
So do we.
Unless there are other questions, I would move resolution 2303, extension of property management contract for Elizabeth House.
Delighted to second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 2303. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered.
The next item is the revision of fiscal year 2022 fourth quarter budget to actual statements. Brown.
Again, for the record, Irene Brown. And for this last item from the Budget Finance and Audit Committee, I will turn it over to Timothy Getzinger and Tara Fowler, who will discuss the item with the commission.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Brown. Again, for the record, Tim Getzinger, Acting CFO and Chief Development Fund Officer. This last item from the Budget Finance and Audit Committee will be presented by Tara Fowler, our Budget Officer.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. For the record, I'm Carrie Fowler, the Budget Officer. The Commission formally accepted the FY22 fourth quarter budget actual statements at the meeting on October 5th, 2022. Subsequent to that acceptance, it was determined that approximately $727,000 of Housing Choice Voucher Program Housing Assistance Payment funding for the emergency vouchers was booked under other federal grants, which resulted in that being recorded as administrative fees and not housing choice voucher payment fees. We have corrected that, which has resulted in a surplus of half revenue over expenses for the fiscal year and reduced the administrative surplus by the same amount of approximately the $727,000. This does not affect the year-end reporting of the agency surplus, as those are all restricted funds to their respective reserve. And I'd be happy to address any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or discussion of this item? Hearing none, I will move to approve resolution 23-04, the revision of fiscal year 22 fourth quarter budget to actual statements.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 2304. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Nelson. And we'll now move to The Development Finance Committee?
Roy,
Okay,
before you move along, let me just take a point of personal privilege and wish Tim Getzinger and the other staff good luck with the Baltimore Ravens, particularly since the Commanders aren't in.
thank you very much. We'll now move to the Development Finance Committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first Development and Finance Committee issue is a mortgage finance one, where staff is seeking approval to extend the existing contracts of the bond underwriting team, consisting of a senior manager, co-senior manager, and co-managers in accordance with the procurement policy. Deputy Director, I trust you will turn this to the proper folks.
Again, for the record, I'm Kareen Brown, and Jennifer Washington will be discussing this next item with you. Please go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jennifer Hines Washington, Acting Director of Mortgage Finance. And I'm here to request approval to extend the existing contracts of the bond underwriting team, which are set to expire at the end of January, for up to 4 months in accordance with the procurement policy. The Commissioner's bond underwriters help to construct the bond issuance and market the bonds to retail and institutional investors. Staff is currently working with the Commission's 6 bond underwriters on the $29 million multifamily bond issuance for residences on the lane and will fund an estimated $27.5 million permanent FHA risk share mortgage loans. Pricing of the bonds is expected to occur in early February, with closing in mid-February. In order to not disrupt the residences on the lane transaction and the ongoing work of the existing underwriters, staff recommends that the existing contracts for our team of underwriters be extended for up to 4 months to allow for any slippage in the closing of the bonds. Work to establish a new team of underwriters is underway. An evaluation team consisting of mortgage finance and finance staff, our executive director, the Commission's financial advisor, and selected commissioners. Oh, and also the deputy executive director will be on that team as well. We'll recommend a new team of underwriters to the full commission. Interviews for qualified respondents and the final selection of the new team of underwriters will conclude in February, with staff returned to the commission in March for approval. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Are there questions regarding this? Hearing none, on behalf of the committee, I move acceptance of staff recommendation to extend this and to approve resolution 2305.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 2305. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those nay. So ordered.
Thank
Next
you.
item.
From that, we move on to the potential headquarters for HOC and the request to approve and select and negotiate a guaranteed maximum price contract for our new headquarters building in Silver Spring.
Again, for the record, I'm Kareen Brown, and this time from the Real Estate Development Division, we've got Jay Shepard, Housing Acquisitions Manager, Marcus Irvin, Director of Development, and Zachary Marks, Chief Real Estate Officer, and all three will discuss this item with you, led by Jay Shepard. Please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. For the record, Marcus Irvin.
Marcus, sorry.
Your man.
I'll keep it on.
Good evening. For the record, Marcus Irvin, Director of Development for HOC. I'm here to present the headquarters. Jay will walk through the process and where we are today. So Jay, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Marcus, and good evening, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Jay Shepard, and I'm a Housing Acquisition Manager in Real Estate Development Department. So this item begins on page 51 of the brief book, and it will cover the approval to select and negotiate a guaranteed max price contract with Paradigm Contractors for HOC's new headquarters building in Silver Spring. On August 24th, 2022, staff solicited through RFP 2340 a request for general contracting services to construct HOC's new headquarters building. The solicitation also included advanced review of the contracts as well as early start agreement drafts. The RFP was posted to HOC's website and distributed to more than 300 vendors registered in the Montgomery County Central Vendor Registration System. The scoring team consisted of staff from the risk management, facilities, and real estate divisions, and site representatives from HOC's development partner, Promark, and our construction manager, JLL. All proposals were due November 4th, 2022, and by the deadline, HOC received 2 responsive proposals. The 2 responsive bidders were Southway Builders and Paradigm Construction. Proposals were scored on
Excuse me
a 5 evaluation
Are
criteria.
these slides related to what you're talking about?
Yes.
So they're not being,
So go ahead and scroll. I think it's probably.
Jay, yeah, just tell them what page, what slide to go to, and they'll advance it.
Yeah, I think, try 56.
Okay.
Keep going. Try 66.
it's like playing lotto.
Yeah.
66 for the scoring?
Yeah.
Yes.
And this shows the categories that the firms were scored against: qualifications and experience, price, MFD participation, and MFD stands for minority, female, or disabled owned businesses, their references, and financial strength. The 2 firms scored well in references and financial strength. Paradigm scored better in their qualifications and experience. You can see with recent builds of comparable high-rise buildings in urban markets. They have experience with conventional concrete and managing complex urban sites. They most recently worked for HOC, constructing the largest residential tower in Rockville at Residences on the Lane. And that was a joint partnership, of course, with HOC and Duval. Paradigm also scored higher on their MFD participation, and that shows here, earning 10 points versus 5 points, showing us a subcontractor plan that actually included a 25.31% MFD participation. Pricing between the 2 firms was very similar, but and overall less than 1% apart. And that indicated a very tight spread and effective pricing exercise in the marketplace. If you go to the next slide, that shows the MFD qualifications and the pricing. Paradigm was at 49,248,083, and Southway just below them 48,892, and that was a difference of 355,000, which is less than 1%. You go to the next slide, please. So the updated development budget now reflects that proposed guaranteed maximum price of a recommendation by the staff for Paradigm Contractors. At the Development and Finance Committee, we discussed the escalation of these hard costs since the commission last were provided these updates in May of 2022. There are hard cost increases shown of 16.2 million, and that result from increased material and labor costs, omissions in the GC pre-construction budget, greater allowances for contingencies as shown, and a change to a conventional concrete structure from a post-tension concrete, which was a move designed to provide the commission flexibility for another use possibly in the future. The total cost per square foot overall is comparable to currently projected Class A buildings in the metropolitan area with a similar floor plate size, height, and type of construction material. We also saw soft cost increases in the budget, which are being driven primarily by permits, fee requirements, and continued market price inflation. Financing cost increases also reflect the higher interest rate environment that we're currently in. It's still contemplated that the commission will issue tax-exempt government bonds under the 2002 multiple purpose indenture to finance a construction and permanent mortgage. Tonight's approvals would allow the headquarters to maintain its development timeline and manage future construction cost escalations by moving forward with negotiation of the GMP contract with Paradigm. Therefore, staff is recommending that the commission accept this recommendation to, number one, approve the selection of Paradigm Contractors as the general contractor based on the results of RFP 2340, and authorize, secondly, its executive director to negotiate a contract with Paradigm for the construction of the building. And so I'm happy to answer any questions or any of us at this time.
Are there questions?
Madam Chair, before we get into any discussion about this item, I'd like to make a motion that we table this particular action and to give the opportunity for the staff and the commission to talk about the significant escalation in costs that have occurred in this project from the original time that it was presented to us. You're talking here about a $16 million escalation in just your hard costs, plus another almost $1 million in soft costs. It significantly raises the cost of this building over what we initially contemplated when we approved this pre-COVID. So we know there have been increases, and we are I'm certainly sensitive to the fact of delaying this could further impact costs going forward. But we need to know as a commission whether or not we can in fact proceed with absorbing this larger increase in the cost of a building for HOC's headquarters. And so I'm asking the staff to prepare a report and provide opportunity for the commission to talk about the implications of all of these additional costs and how we as a commission want to proceed. I make a motion to table this.
I would second that motion.
It has been properly moved and seconded to table this item and allow for a further discussion with staff and commission. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed to? The motion carries.
I abstain.
And one abstention. I'd like to thank the staff for all the work to get here. So we're not trying to not recognize all the work that the staff has done and what you're doing to advance the project consistent with what you were charged to do. But we have to get at this point in time, we need to take a time and be prudent before we assume this significant, a larger increase in the cost of this development. So I want to thank you all. So, Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess a couple of questions I'd like to see explored as the staff responds to this action. You mentioned that there were, in the packet, that there were 2 bids that were received that were not received in a timely fashion and incomplete. I'm not sure what the timely fashion meant. Were there any circumstances, special circumstances related to the late receipt of those? Another comment that you've made is that the small difference in price between the 2 that we're considering reflects that that's probably where the market is and the price is in the ballpark. Were the other 2 that came in that same ballpark?
If I could, before you respond to that, Commissioner Nelson, if I could ask, since we tabled this item for discussion, if we could also table those questions that you're posing, we can add to the staff. But since we closed this item for discussion, I would ask that we also defer to asking the staff to respond to that at this time.
Oh, I wasn't asking for them to respond at this time. I was just putting it on the table for them to respond when they submit their report. And I can submit that later.
Okay, thank you.
No, I wasn't looking for any further discussion at this point.
Okay, thank you. Seeing that, we will now move on to the next item.
The next item is related to Hillendale Gateway and the authorization to execute a contract with CDG Building Group and provide limited notice to proceed for early start construction work and approval of an early start budget and funding. And it's so nice to see this moving forward and being able to do an early start. If that's what my colleagues agree to, why I will really. It's a good faith move forward. Please.
Again, for the record, I'm Kareen Brown, and this time we've got Catherine Hollister, Senior Financial Analyst in the Real Estate Division, along with Marcus Irvin and Zachary Marks, also of the Real Estate Division. And I'll turn it over to Marcus, who will begin.
All right, so for the record, Marcus Irvin, Director of Development, here to present two actions: authorization to execute a contract with CBG Building Group, provide a limited notice to proceed for early start construction work, approval of early start budget and funding for Hellendale. So this is a follow-up to prior actions in which Catherine will outline some of the benefits of an early start and how it will help us in facilitating this transformative development. So I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Thanks, Marcus. Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Catherine Hollister. I'm a Senior Financial Analyst in the Real Estate Division. Staff is requesting that the Commission authorize the execution of a contract with CBG Building Group for early start construction work and approve an early start budget and funding for Hellendale Gateway. As you may remember, at the September 14th, 2022 Commission meeting, the Commission approved the change in Hellendale Gateway structural system from precedent to concrete. At that meeting, staff presented a path to ensure that the vertical construction of the project would not be delayed despite this switch, and told the Commission that it would return for approval of an early start, which would allow for site work to begin prior to the receipt of building permits. Approval of these items today would allow the development timeline discussed at the September Commission meeting to stay on track and for the vertical construction to not be delayed.
Excuse me for a moment. And could you ask them to please move these slides?
Yes, on page 76 of your brief book provides background on Hellendale Gateway development. Hellendale Gateway will be a new mixed-use, mixed-income, multi-generational community located at the site of Poly Hall Apartments and will contain 463 units in 2 residential buildings. One, a 155-unit passive house, net zero energy, age-restricted senior building. The other, a 308-unit passive house, non-age-restricted multifamily building. Page 77 of your brief book discusses Hellendale Gateway's development highlights. Hellendale Gateway is a hallmark development that incorporates a number of agency, county, and state priorities, many of which are listed here. Pages 78 and 79 of your brief book provide the executive summary for today's items. The first item on page 78 is approval to execute a contract with CBG Building Group and provide a limited notice to proceed for early start work. It is common practice for HOC to enter into early start agreements with general contractors, and has done so for the majority of its recent new construction renovation transactions. Early starts are a tool to allow for a limited scope of construction to proceed prior to full construction closing. It can help reduce overall development duration and project costs. Typically, the Commission approves an early start along with a full GC contract value, known as the guaranteed maximum price or GMP amount. However, for Hellendale Gateway, staff is only requesting approval of an early start and will return to the Commission in mid-2023 for approval of the GMP. Reasons for this two-step approach are that the development is currently being redesigned to a concrete structure, and the switch to concrete is estimated to result in construction cost savings. Hellendale Gateway's last repricing exercise was at the height of historic construction cost increases. Construction prices are stabilizing, and there are indications that prices may start to come down. And rebidding the vertical phase of construction closer to when the work will be done will result in more competitive subcontractor bids. We turn to page 79 of your brief book. Staff is also requesting approval of an early start budget and funding source. The early start budget of $14.5 million consists of all costs needed to bring the site ready for vertical construction and includes hard construction costs, soft costs, and contingency. Only 50% of the early start costs are projected to be drawn before full construction closing. However, staff is requesting the entire early start budget be obligated. Staff recommends using the Housing Production Fund as a source for the early start, as Hellendale Gateway meets the funding and affordability requirements of this program. Page 80 of your brief book provides the pre-development timeline for Hellendale Gateway. As discussed on the slide, approval of an early start would keep the vertical construction timeline on track, despite the delay in building permit approval due to the switch in structural frame. Page 81 of your brief book summarizes the GC contract. Staff has negotiated the significant points of the two-phase contract and is requesting approval to execute the contract once negotiations are finalized. The contract would allow for a limited notice to proceed for early start construction work in an amount not to exceed 11.5 million. Staff will return to the commission in May 2023 for approval of a guaranteed maximum price for the GC contract and to authorize a full notice to proceed for the further construction of the project. Page 82 presents the early start budget and proposed funding source. The early start budget of 14.5 million consists of all costs needed to bring the site ready for vertical construction and includes 11.5 million in hard construction costs, which is the GC early start contract value, 1 million in soft costs, and 2 million in contingency. As a follow-up to the discussion that occurred during the Development and Finance Committee, the early start work does include transportation improvements, including the new transit center. Per the committee's suggestion, the development team has provided the transit center plans to the Commission on People with Disabilities for their feedback on the transit center design.
Thank you.
And as discussed in the executive summary, staff recommends using the HPF as the source for the early start. Page 83 discusses the benefits and risks of an early start. There are a number of benefits associated with an early start, including that it allows the development timeline to stay on track. It reduces the overall time until the project is built, stabilized, and permanently financed, which in turn reduces carrying costs. In the case of Hillendale Gateway, an early start would result in approximately $450,000 in cost savings versus if construction did not mobilize until full construction closing. It can also result in more favorable financing due to the shorter construction financing period. The risks associated with an early start are mitigated by the fact that the value of the site as ready for vertical construction is more than the cost of the early start work and pre-development costs combined. Pages 84 and 85 of your brief book provide details on the construction schedule, draw schedule, and projected cost savings due to the shortened development period. Finally, page 86 of your brief book provides the issues for the Commission's consideration. Staff is requesting that the Commission accept staff's recommendations, which are supported by the Development and Finance Committee. The resolution for these items can be found on page 87 of your brief book. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding Resolution 2307 and authorizing an early construction start? This does let us stay on schedule, which to me is a huge advantage.
On the associated usage chart you had on the page, I think it was page 81. So the early start, look what associated usage chart you had.
Scroll down a little bit.
There you go, okay. At the early start budget you're requesting is what, $14.5 million, correct?
Yep.
And that your construction estimates under your uses was $176 million, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this represents about less than a 10% allocation of what you estimated, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Move approval.
Second,
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve resolution 2307 related to Hillendale Gateway. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Nay. So ordered. Thank you.
And the final Development Finance Committee issue is the approval of a loan from the Housing Production Fund to Hillendale Gateway to accomplish what we have just approved.
Again, for the record, Kareen Brown, and for this last item, Mr. Tim Getzinger, our Chief Development Funds Officer and Acting Chief Financial Officer, will discuss this with the Commission. Tim, please go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Executive Director Brown. Again, for the record, my name is Tim Getzinger. I'm the acting CFO, as well as the Chief Development Funds Officer. And for this item, just the background, on May 5th, 2021, the Commission approved essentially what was the Housing Production Fund. It is a $50 million revolving development fund that is used to provide construction financing. The previous presentation provided some of the requirements, including there is a 5-year repayment requirement. There is a 5% interest requirement, which is payable monthly. And the types of deals that are funded by this, they are 30-70% deals, so that the minimum affordability, there is a 20% at 50% AMI, area median income. For the county, the current AMI for a family of 4 is $142,000 per year. So this would be affordable to a family of 4, making about $71,000. Additionally, the other component would be 10% at MPDU. MPDU for the county, it changes depending upon the height of the construction. If it's a garden style, it's 65% AMI. If it's a high rise, it's 70% AMI. This is a high rise, so it's 70% AMI. However, I believe in the previous presentation, it provided the unit mix in terms of affordability, which far exceeds the minimum requirements for AMI. We discussed the repayment requirements, and we do have other sources of financing, which will be able to take out this particular set of financing. Additionally, when we originally went to the county council for approval for the Housing Production Fund, we had 2 initial projects in mind. All right, so the first was the West Side Shady Grove project, which has already been funded. In fact, that was funded in December of 2021. It was a $14.3 million loan from the Housing Production Fund. Monthly payments of 5% of that are being made to the county, so we are fully in compliance. It is expected that that project should meet permanent financing around February of 2024, in which that principal repayment will be returned to the Housing Production Fund for another project. But as we were taking a look at the projects to be funded, the second project, of course, was the Hillendale Gateway project. We'll likely be coming to you for additional funding out of the Housing Production Fund. I think we were originally looking at about $35 million. However, the request today is for the $14.5 million as per the previous presentation. So this is just a pro forma request to be able to utilize the Housing Production Fund. One more other exciting piece of information, and I'm sure you are all aware, we went on the road and we were able to procure a second tranche of Housing Production Fund in the amount of, again, $50 million. So this is going to be a $100 million fund. The market isn't exactly great to go out for another bond issuance. However, we are engaging in conversations currently with the county about timing of that second bond issuance. So it's very exciting. You know, this is one of the first executed social housing program models in the country. We garnered a lot of positive publicity, both, you know, locally, regionally, and nationally. A lot of jurisdictions are trying to copy, emulate, this program. So a lot of good news, and so this will be the second use of this source. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
I would just note that I think that the county will be very pleased at the affordability level that the staff has diligently been able to accomplish with this as a significant project out of the gate under this program, and is all the more reason for publicity and affirmation. And I trust we will not lose any opportunity to remind the council that we have been able to accomplish this level of affordability on this site. I think it's remarkable. Very exciting. And if my colleagues have no questions.
Not a question, but just a comment.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's noteworthy that we are able to advance the use of the Housing Production Fund as expeditiously as we've been able to do. And I think it lays the foundation for other discussions that we can have with the county and other sources of investment related to this kind of strategy. I want to just acknowledge and thank the work that's been done to continue to move us in this direction. So, comment.
I'd like to move adoption of resolution 2308.
So moved.
It's been probably moved and seconded to approve resolution 2308. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So ordered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
With no other business before the commission, I call the meeting adjourned. We will now convene corporation meetings. On December 7th, 2022, two corporations met to approve accepting amended refinancing plans for their properties. The meetings convened today are for the purposes of approving those minutes. I now call the meeting of the VPC 1 Corporation to order. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. So ordered. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. I now call the meeting of the VPC 2 Corporation to order. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second, Commissioner Byrd.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. With no further business to come before the corporation, this meeting is adjourned. This concludes the corporation meeting. As the HOC meeting was already adjourned, this concludes today's meeting. Thank you all very much.
Yeah.